Now, Julie, I'm curious. Would you be able to talk a little bit about the connection between inflammation and fat loss?
Certainly. So a lot of people are really struggling with this one. When you eat a great deal of sugar or flour, a lot of people are sugar hogs. They're real starch tooths, right?
Right.
They really love their bread. And we actually spike our insulin quite quickly. And sadly, insulin can be a serious problem with inflammation.
Right.
And you can also, when your insulin stops being really receptive to your cells, you end up with sugar that's hanging out in your bloodstream, because people don't realize that bread and starch turns into sugar right in their mouth when they break it down very quickly, within about 30 seconds. So you've got all this extra sugar in your blood, and that does massive damage. It's called AGE, advanced glycation end products.
Right.
It does major damage to the cells in your body, causing rampant inflammation head to toe.
Right.
So it's really interesting that people that are in a crave cycle, people that really seriously struggle with their weight and have real emotional eating, my heart goes out to them, because they are driving inflammation. And I just want to share that I was an emotional eater at one point, and I really feel that it's possible for anyone to break through, because food can become an addiction just like alcohol or anything else. Unfortunately, we can stop drinking, we can stop smoking, but we can't stop eating. We need to eat. So it can be one of the most challenging things for people. So I really hope that can motivate people, that extra level. Go get the emotional help they need to break those barriers around emotional eating, because most of the time it's the nocturnal eaters, the people who are lonely and upset, who are eating massive amount of calories between, say, 7 and 11 o'clock at night. And those people are doing the greatest harm in the inflammation in their body, because they're spiking their insulin right before they go to bed.
Right. Now, how might we know if we're inflamed? Let's say we're not injured, we're not irritated, or any of the other eyes, and yet we know we're eating pro-inflammatory foods. Now, we know that one person's food is another person's poison. So do pro-inflammatory foods cause the same amount of inflammation in everyone, or is there individual differences?
You're right. Inflammation is completely dependent on your genetics. It's dependent on your emotions and how your immune system's doing, reacting to the stressors that you're throwing at it. So I really think that it's completely individualized.
Right.
A big thing that I love to do is keep a food journal with every client, because when I get to see what they're eating, I start to see patterns, and I really help them identify that, is that food a potential allergen for you? It's not an allergen for me, but is it a potential allergen for you?
Right.
Because you are eating it all the time. You might be, whatever you're addicted to is often what you're seriously having an allergy to, and whatever you're allergic to is truly your greatest inflammatory foods. And that's why I really see there's 7 billion diets for 7 billion people. And we have to start individualizing this and really seeing that every single person needs to be on their very own specialized plan.
Earlier on, you touched on the food-mood connection. Now, let's say somebody is an emotional eater. How would you address that? How would you break through their emotional eating patterns?
A big thing for me is helping them look at what is the payoff when they're getting to the fridge. So, I would stand when I was really lonely, and I'd open the fridge when I was really thinking about that boy who had sort of like passed me by, or that boss that was being really cruel to me.
Right.
And I would use that food as a substitution and eat down how I was feeling. So I really tried to do some coaching around that with people and get them tuned into the fact that what is that food replacing, or what is that food numbing out for you, and getting to that real place of feeling. And then I help them substitute that food, because often breaking that crave cycle is so much about chemistry. So if I can help them with fiber, if I can help them with protein, I can give them a toolkit so that they can actually interrupt that same addictive pattern that they have, put some healthier tools, healthier habits in place so that they don't fall over the cliff quite as far. They might still crave things. They might still have issues. Of course, we all do. We're never perfect.
Right.
But we don't tumble all the way down into the rabbit hole. We're able to actually catch ourselves. And that's where I see permanent change, because I hate dieting. Dieting is about deprivation. It's about a food prison. I'm here to help people stay on a live-it, and that requires really addressing your personal issues.
Makes a lot of sense. Can you give us an example of an actual client you've had that you've helped them deal with fat loss? What were the results? What were the challenges that you've encountered?
Sure. I'm actually working with someone right now who is a big emotional eater, and we had to look at the fact that they're home alone at night, and they are a mom of 2 kids, and their husband works nights, and so she has a tremendous amount of loneliness. And we really worked on what sort of things can we put in place to distract her from defaulting to the food equation all the time.
Right.
Her big thing is treating herself, eating out. And instead of taking away that habit, because we can't do everything at once, I said, okay, if we're going to eat out, let's sit down and do some menu planning around what foods on what restaurants, like what restaurants have empowered menus with a couple items that you could order that treat and have that satisfaction of treating yourself and having fun, but you're not toppling down the rabbit hole with endless carbohydrates that are going to make you feel really rotten. And then I also really talked to her about fiber, that if she can have a constant level of fullness, that she never lets herself get to that scary, like, 8, 9, 10 level of fullness on a scale of 1 to 10. But if we really maintain those 5 or 6 meals throughout the day, then we don't go into that emergency mode of, I'm starving.
Right.
I could eat a horse. Like those little tricks of the trade. Once we become conscious around it, I was really able to help her see how we can make her feel good in the long run instead of good in the short term.
Right.
And even within 2 weeks, no word of a lie, within 2 weeks, she started to have that emotional eating in check. And she is feeling so good because she's not waking up with a blood sugar hangover, because she used to spike her insulin so bad that she'd wake up almost with a hangover because her blood sugar was so low.
Oh, wow.
So it's really exciting work.
I'm actually glad you brought up the issue of how to eat healthy when you eat out, because that's a concern of many people, including my clients. For example, people travel a lot, or they eat out as a result of social life, etc. What are some strategies people can use to make healthier choices when they do eat out?
Well, a big one is please waive the bread that sort of hides you off until you get what you really want. I really encourage you just to mention to the waiter when they first come to the table, I'm just letting you know I'd prefer not to have the bread and butter right off the top, because that's really where it's once you taste that bread and butter, you're heading down the wrong track.
Right.
And then I really want people to empower themselves to say what they really want. If you look at the menu and like, oh, shucks, that comes with a huge baked potato, or shucks, that comes with a massive side of white rice, just say, hey, is it possible to have the substitution of some nice steamed vegetable or stir fry or whatever? And know that that waiter is totally okay with that substitution. They probably heard it 3 or 4 times that night. And it might come with a $1 or $2 increase, but just think about what gift you're giving yourself, because when you get to 7 servings of veggies a day, that is when your life is truly going to change. When you get to that level of vitamins and minerals and that level of phytonutrients in the plants that you're eating, you start to feel completely emotionally different.
Absolutely.
And so I really hope people feel it's okay, because I think a lot Canadians are just too polite. We don't want to ask for any favors.
That's right.
And really, I think more and more menus are going in this direction where you pick your sides. You don't have to go for the baked potato anymore.
That's right, and I'm glad you brought up that strategy. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually order off the menu and make healthier choices that are going to help you with not only your physique goals, but your health goals as well. So that's a very good point you brought up.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is exercise.